dealing with insecurity is a tough feat for most. Now, most people deal with some form of insecurity, whether it's something to do with their intellect, their physical appearance, the way that they present themselves to the world, how they are in a public environment, social spaces and settings, etc. The people always ask, like, how do I break the barrier I have, or how do I work on my insecurity? And it's first identifying what your insecurity is. So knowing, for example, what that trigger is and what makes you feel insecure, what's the situation, what's the environment, what are those dynamics, and then slowly exposing yourself to them. So exposure therapy is the premise behind trying to slowly take yourself into an environment that you don't like, or a situation that goes against everything you really want to do, and slowly allowing yourself to experience it and bringing yourself back to a safe place, and then going back in and experiencing it a little more next time and bringing yourself back to the safe place. Not just ripping off the band-aid and diving right in. That usually is quite chaotic. It can work for some people, but it can also be very detrimental to your well-being and your mental health, and it can be a greater stress to the body. So what we want to do is we want stress, but we want slow, small amounts of stress and bring ourselves back to a safe environment. And we continue to repeat that over a very long and constant journey, and we get better at that situation. So for example, if it is an insecurity with, you communicating with people, so in a social setting, potentially it might be you don't like to go to an event or a function because you don't feel comfortable and you feel intimidated, etc. So the first thing would be, if you're going to try and expose yourself to a function, you might have some constraints on it. First, you might take someone with you, so that can create a bit more safety in that environment. And you may only go for a certain period of time and bring yourself back out of that. Now, that will set you up for some success because you set some ground rules, you set some constraints, and you give yourself almost a deadline to say, look, I've gotten to that point, cool, now I'm happy to leave. Sometimes it's a matter of, setting yourself up for success, and, you might have plans where you're like, look, I'm going to come to the function, I'm staying till 9 p.m. and I'm with my friend. My friend knows, my safety knows where I'm at and what my situation is, and they can support that and they can pull me out. It could be as simple as you might have an issue just having, dialogue with someone and really, getting across your point. And you have an insecurity about how and I see this a lot, when you put your point across, you don't feel that it is valid or someone else is listening or that you're saying the right thing. And when we're trying to be better at something, we realize we're starting at the bottom. So we already suck at it. So that already sucks anyway. So if you are going to try a new skill, you're going to suck at it to start with, and then you're going to only practice to get better. So going into learning how to have that conversation at first might suck. You might not be that great. But if you create that awareness, that acceptance that, hey, my first attempt at this may not be great, that is okay. But if you go in thinking, I'm going to be amazing, and it's not to set yourself up for success or failure, it's just to create a reality of, if I'm going to learn a new skill, as a newbie learning a new skill, I am at the bottom of the food chain. I'm not very good at this. And those skills in socialization are quite hard because we think as a 30, 40, 50-year-old, we should be good at them. But no, sometimes you are like the 2-year-old or the 4-year-old or the 5-year-old at primary school saying, hey, will you be my friend? I want to make a friend. So at the same time, you have to understand you are at the beginning of the learning curve of that journey. So for example, you want to go and speak to someone and you have this social awkwardness and you don't feel confident in what you're saying. If you're saying what's meant to be right, it might be as simple as just introducing who you are and saying hey to that person and allowing them to have an open conversation with you, and then taking one point that you would like to put across in that conversation and just saying it as truthfully in any which way is necessary for you. Now, if the person gets it or not is irrelevant. It's that you took the action to just say the thing, just to be confident enough to speak, right? It might be a situation where you never speak and you might actually put your hand up and actually say something. You might just, vocalize something and everyone might look at you because you never speak. That's okay. That means you've made change. You're going to have to change something for something to change. And that's going to be a quite confronting element, especially when these things you are trying to achieve are now skills where you're at the bottom of the learning curve. You are literally, you don't know how to do them, so you're going to have to practice them. You are on your training wheels. When it comes to insecurity, we also need to identify if the insecurity stems from a lack of self-confidence, whether it's come from an external factor of someone telling you your self-worth it doesn't exist, from trauma, from past behavior, from life experiences. And when we can identify that, we can then really try and break it down. And it's always great to have a mentor for these things. I seek my own mentors. I have multiple mentors in different realms in life. But I honestly believe when you're trying to delve into things about self, it's good to have a clear perspective of someone that actually gets to understand you, gets to know you, and can maybe see some other truths that you're not seeing because you were maybe emotionally distraught from the past experiences, the past behavior. A mentor can create clarity for you. So not only exposure therapy is needed, but a mentor is also needed. So when it comes to dealing with insecurities, you need a little bag of tools to help you break those insecurities. They don't just disappear out of nowhere, or you don't just outgrow them. You do need to work on them. So my tips are: find a mentor, someone that can help guide you through whatever that insecurity is after it's been identified, and small bits of exposure therapy, small little steps into the firing lines and back out. Go into the unsafe environment, come back out in very small dribs and drabs, and layer that over time, over very constant effort, so that you can get better and you can practice the skill. And remember, when you are practicing to learn a new skill, at the beginning you may suck, but that's the whole point of learning a new skill, is that you don't have the skill. You're going to have to start at the bottom of the food chain, at the beginning of the learning curve, right at the base. It doesn't matter how old you are, how experienced you are in life. For a new skill, you're going to start at the beginning.